Agencies across the government have to coordinate in the execution of counter-drug operations. Even though they've been doing it for decades, a recent report from the Government Accountability Office finds they still have some work to do to get it right. Federal News Network's Terry Gerton got the details from the GAO's Director of Homeland Security and Justice Programs, Triona McNeil.
A number of senators were interested in understanding how HSI, which is a component in DHS's ICE division, how HSI and DEA coordinate to counter drug trafficking.
So you just threw out a lot of acronyms there.
Yep.
You're talking about agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the Drug Enforcement Agency, Homeland Security. Those organizations cross federal departments as well as cross boundaries within federal departments. How do they split up the counter-drug trafficking mission to start with?
There are a number of statutory authorities that explain the different roles and responsibilities, because it really does take an all-of-government approach to address this drug issue, not just drug misuse, but also interdicting and countering drug trafficking. So DEA, which is out of the Department of Justice, is the lead for the U.S. government against illicit drug trafficking. DEA works to disrupt and dismantle the leadership, command, control, and financial infrastructure of major narcotics trafficking organizations. It was created in 1973, and it is really the key entity that's to coordinate U.S. efforts against illicit drug trafficking, domestically and internationally. And so you've got these other federal agencies that DEA works with, and one of those is the Department of Homeland Security. And HSI is housed in that agency, and it focuses on efforts against drug smuggling with a connection to the U.S. border. So it focuses on trafficking, intercepting, investigating, and stopping illicit narcotics from flowing into the U.S.
So anytime you've got agencies working across department boundaries, it gets complicated. Do these organizations have some protocols or agreements in place that kind of lay out the rules of the road?
So there are a number of agreements between these two entities specifically. In 1994, DEA signed an agreement with Customs that created procedures for the cross-designation of customs agents to have what we call, or what is called, Title 21 authority. So under this agreement, custom agents could only conduct counter-narcotics investigations of narcotics smuggled across the U.S. international border. And just to remind your listeners, Title 21 is of the U.S. Code contains the nation's controlled substance laws. So that's largely DEA's authorities come from Title 21 of the U.S. Code. So they signed this agreement in 1994. Then in 2009, they replaced that 1994 agreement. And so this new agreement in 2009 provides for coordination between DEA and HSI and requirements for cross-designation, information sharing, and deconfliction. And so I'll get into cross-designation in a bit, but just to provide the listener a little bit of information on that. That is where DEA has the authority to cross-designate HSI agents under Title 21 authority. So they're able to participate and do investigations of related to counter-narcotics.
Triona McNeil is a director of Homeland Security and Justice Programs for the Government Accountability Office. So that cross-designation piece is interesting because, like, these frontline law enforcement agencies have really been shorthanded for a long time. Doesn't that make coordination even harder and make the cross-designation process even more complicated?
I think that underscores the importance of the cross-designation process. When you have the flow and major influx of drugs into the country, you do really need an all-of-government approach. Whoever has the authority and the ability and the responsibility to counter the drugs that flow into the country, we need them all to be working together. And so that cross-designation process enables joint investigations between various federal entities that have the roles and responsibilities. So when HSI agents in the field request that Title 21 authority, it goes through a process. It first needs to flow through headquarters, an annual process. There is an ad hoc process as needed, but it's really an annual process where DHS will send a batch of agents to DEA to get them approved to be involved in these drug investigations. And that process is very important. Both DHS and DOJ folks that we spoke with appreciate and value the process, but there are some issues that were raised about it.
Well, and that brings us right back then to the findings of your report. So what did you find as you looked at the process, this cross-designation process between the two agencies?
So there were three major issues. One was how many cross-designations have occurred. And the time frame we focused on was 2019 to 2023. And so DEA has cross-designated an average of over 4,000 HSI agents per year with the authority to participate in counter-narcotics investigations. And just to give some context, there are 5,600 special agents at HSI. And HSI does a number of things other than drug issues. They focus on a number of things related to criminal investigations into the illegal movement of people, goods, money, contraband, weapons, sensitive technology. They do a lot of other functions. Drugs is just one thing that they do at the border. So 5,600 special agents are typically at HSI in a given year, and DEA on average has cross-designated 4,000 of them each year with the authority to investigate counter-narcotics.
And that's on top of DEA's own 4,400 special agents.
That's right.
So we're talking about almost 9,000 people focused on investigating counter-drug trafficking in America.
Yes, and the 4,000 HSI agents that are cross-designated each year, they may not only focus on narcotics, but they can focus on narcotics.
Got it. So with the findings, you also made 3 recommendations, and they're really laser focused on improving the cross-designation process. Tell us about what you're recommending.
So we recommend that DEA establish timeliness goals for its Title 21 cross-designation process and track the processing time. So DEA has not established any goals for how quickly it needs to cross-designate, and it doesn't track how long it takes. So we asked a very simple question about the length of time, because that was one of the issues that we were hearing from the agents that we spoke with. It just takes a lot of time, and there's been delays, and that can have very negative impacts on investigations, which could lead to criminals evading detection and agents not being able to investigate illicit drugs that they identify at the border. And so because DEA really doesn't track the length of time that it takes, we made a recommendation that they need to really set goals, and they need to track how long it's taking and if they're meeting those reasonable goals. One thing I do want to add, DEA officials stated that they believe the cross-designation processing can be time-consuming for a few reasons. Sometimes duplicative agent badge numbers and names are submitted, and so they have to clean the list. Mm-hmm. And then there are some agents who are not eligible for cross-designation,